Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Lab LCI001 small format interchangeable core capping instrument. Open that up and take a look at it. Oh yeah, little capping tool here. You know, there's a design happening here. Obviously a knurled handle. You can probably see the knurling, but the length of that is very specific and used in their capping block so that those caps are capped to the proper depth, because when your pin stack equaling, let's say it's A2, a 23, plus the proper spring, that cap needs to be in position, the proper depth. If it's not, you'll have likely premature failure of the cylinder, I would think. A couple of basic dimensional properties. And then we're going to switch to the camera, the screen view, where I can show you the manufacturer's supporting documentation. Overall length, about 1.348. The length of the stem only is 0.344, with a diameter of 0.125, eighth of an inch. Let's switch to the screen view and take a look at that supporting documentation. Okay, this is the product that we're looking at. Sold as each, capping instrument. Manufacturer's link is here. Let's click on that and then open up the product catalog. And we are looking at the LCI001. Here we go. Shows up in the book 3 times, all spread out over 2 pages. Capping instrument. So what this interchangeable core annex is a multi-purpose tool, in the sense that you can cap your blocks, but you can also take your ejector pin, and when the book is in the block, you can force your ejector pin down through the bottom of the core and evacuate all of the components in the pin chambers into the book. Why would you do that? Well, to decode the possible keys that operated that cylinder. Okay, so you know, if you had a couple cores, you ought to be able to determine a control key if you were to measure the individual pins, etc. So that's how you would go about doing that. If it's a level 2 system, you know, you should be able to identify a master, things of that nature. But you would use your removal tool, or they call the evictor, into this tool. I don't have much of a need to decode small format pins. However, if I did a lot of it, I would most certainly have this as a tool, and obviously a pinning tray would be used along with this. Okay, it's made of stainless steel. It's probably one heck of a tool. I don't own one, but you know, what you'll be using it for primarily is very handy. The only thing that I would like to see is there to be an option of some legs here so that you can bolt it down to your desk, or have an option, have a base where you can bolt it down, have an optional magnetic base as well, just to keep it from being unintentionally knocked over. I don't see that it has any provision for that, because these tools are generally small. You know, they're small in the hand, which is certainly an advantage in one regard. But having it something on your workbench, you know, sometimes I like it to be fixtured down to the table. A couple of bolts, you know, a couple of wing nuts, that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's where the capping instrument comes into play. So as you have your core and you've combinated it, and you've dropped your pins, your driver pin, your build-up pins, or your control pins, your top pins, your driver pins, your springs, and then your individual caps, you'll use your capping instrument. And the point is that the length of that, when you're capping it on top of here and you tap it down with a, like a, you know, a rawhide or a plastic mallet that is measured, that is weighed in ounces, you'll get the proper depth, is what I'm driving at. Shows up in the catalog on 2 different pages. Okay. Now, this link to the manufacturer's product catalog is really handy because it will allow you to review all things lab locksmithing supply related. They are an original equipment manufacturer for many primary lock manufacturers. They have springs, pins, other associated items that you'll use for lots of platforms. Okay. And, you know, and if you do locksmithing, you probably own a lab kit. I can't think of a locksmith who doesn't own one. And their tools are like all other things in locksmithing. There is a best tool for every job. Sometimes the Classic Pro that I've owned for many years is the right tool, and there are many times when it's certainly not the right tool. So Lab does a great job at this sort of work. Scrolling through here will show you all their pin kits and all of the supplies that go into them. Plug followers, lock picks. This capping tool is really nice if you do Schlag work. It's a very expensive tool, and it's hard to wrap your head around purchasing. In conclusion, it seems in the world of locksmithing, there's a particular tool for every particular job. You know, and the fact of the matter is there is. And if you're going to do locksmithing, you're going to, you know, the saying that I use sometimes, you can change spark plugs with a toothbrush, but it's not the right tool to use. Setting caps on individually capped cores, you know, I suppose you can use, you know, a pin punch. It's just not the right tool to use. Or the best tool, I should say. So, any questions on the LCI001 capping block, capping tool, I should say, or any other lab product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.